and welcome into RinkWise. I'm your host, Evan Marinofsky, alongside with Patrick Donnelly. Pat, what's up?
You know what? Not a lot. After a big weekend of hockey.
Yeah, you see enough hockey this weekend?
Getting to work in a monsoon this morning.
Terrible.
It's brutal out there, man.
Oh, I know. It's Monday morning. It's as we record this, so you're hearing this at some point this week. Just rain.
It's just the most Monday morning start ever.
It is.
Trash everywhere on the streets.
It is.
Wind blowing your car around.
It's like
if you have a little car like me.
It's like the apocalypse. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like it. And after a long weekend of hockey, I mean, how many games do you think you watched this weekend?
Oh, boy. At least 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Five alone. Five and a half alone on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 on Sunday. So that gets me to 7.5. And then I think I saw about 2.5 on Friday. So yeah, about 10.
Yeah. That's a record for you because you just started.
Yep.
So but you're gonna beat it at some point. That's gonna be beat. I said this to you last on Sunday night. It's gonna happen at some point. I'm with you. Same. I was on the boys' side. I went to 3. So I went to Flood-Marr. I was at the most. I went to Lawrence Groton on Thursday night for Lawrence Cushing, and then I went to what's the other one? I'm blanking on it. They blend together at this point. The Kevin Much.
Yes.
Kevin Much. At St. Sebastian's. I went for a couple games, and they were interesting. But Flood-Marr is at the most. There's going to be a lot of content on that this week. A lot of content from the Harrington for you. Credit to all the rinks that give out food at these events.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Harrington did. I know Flood-Marr, Nobles gave out food.
Yeah, Nobles had the little snack table and baked goods.
Awesome. So that was the best thing. They brought in pizza. They brought in sandwiches. They had cookies, candy, stuff. I mean, I've talked to a lot of college coaches there, and everybody's like, if you have food, it helps because then they don't leave. You know, you don't, especially the college coach. You don't want them to leave because then they might not come back.
Yep.
The whole point's to showcase. So, and then Seb's had a little array of stuff. They had food. So hopeful. I mean, that'd be cool if everybody did that because it's a big perk.
It certainly is. We'll come to your rinks a little more, maybe.
Yeah, if you say that there's free pizza or free food anywhere, I will show up.
Or, for those of us out here taking our own photos, shout out to Milton Academy for having phenomenal lighting and clean glass.
Incredible. Can we take a second here? And I know that
Seb's too. Their rink is phenomenal.
Seb's is phenomenal. Milton's phenomenal. There's a lot of good lighting. There's a lot of good rinks. But let me take a second here to give out the opinion that everybody has that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. The Nobles rink sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not good.
Who is it you said, we did like the best New England last year, like the superlative. Someone had the worst rink, and now they're getting a new rink in a couple years.
Yeah, it was Northfield Mount Herman, I think. The coach came up to me at an event back in the fall and said, like, oh, thanks, we're fundraising now for a rink. I hope that this happens for Nobles, because Nobles is a beautiful school, beautiful campus. Why is the rink like that?
Just get new glass.
Yeah, or that. I mean,
and new seats, because the sight lines are horrible.
Sight lines are terrible. And that's again, it's Nobles is a good team.
Yeah,
and
they deserve better. Both teams are nasty.
They do, and girls and boys are nasty, and they're very good. The girls a little bit better than the boys this year, but really good. Great campus. I like Nobles as a school, but why is the glass look like someone smeared like an iPad
like
kid?
Kasabuski, or like Hockey Town.
Yes, like Kasabuski. It's like, when you have like a 3-year-old who's sneezing all over his hands and using an iPad. It's like he smudged his fingers all over the glass. So
honestly, it'd be better off with the brick wall at Hockey Town. I don't know if we'll go that far. That might be a low blow.
Or the chicken wire fence at the Mount St. Charles, or the old Mount St. Charles rink. That would be perfect. But I would love that. You're right. The sight lines aren't good. It's hard to get a good seat in there, and there's also I don't believe the showers.
If you go as far back as you can in the stands, then you can't see if it goes the other end.
Exactly. And I heard that I haven't played at Nobles, but I heard that you have to walk to the gym on the other side of the street there to use the showers for the players. So
sheesh.
Again, I would love for Nobles, but credit to them, they had pizza and food. So I guess that's all that matters. What did you think of the action? I mean, this was your first prep tournament. I mean, what did you think? Because you went to the tournament with all the good teams. Or a lot of the top teams.
There are sometimes last night when I was writing about the Nobles championship win that I was looking back at my notes from the entire weekend. I was like, man, these suck. What am I doing taking notes like this? But no, it was I thought it was great games, or they were great games. Some pretty big surprises, I thought. St. Paul's beating Williston was huge, especially after Williston beat St. Paul's 2 weeks ago. I thought Westminster was pretty impressive, a little bit of an under-the-radar team. I thought there were a couple players on Lawrence that, impressed me. One is, I think it's Gina Kukanam. She's a senior. She was on that top line. She was pretty good. And then Nobles is just, we weren't really sure what to make of them, especially offensively coming into the year after they lost Brooke Manning. But, man, it's just no problem because they're so deep on the back end. Anya Zubkovska is fantastic in net. But, it's that blue line. You have Olivia Maffeo. You have Sophia Levering, Jamie Griswold. There's one other player I'm blanking on, but it's their 4 captains, and they're all it's a murderer's row on the blue line for Nobles.
Yeah, I feel like Nobles, to me, again, they beat Lawrence, they beat Westminster, they beat St. Mark's, and they beat St. Paul's in the championship. And again, they allowed minimal goals.
Yeah.
We Zubkovska and Ned, and then the D at the back. To me, that feels like it may be a winning formula to beat a Williston. It's unfortunate they never got to play Williston. I would have loved to have seen that matchup, but Williston goes down to St. Paul's
and then ties on Sunday.
Yeah, is the dynasty dead?
Is the sky falling? I don't think so.
No, I don't think it is.
They very much still passed the eye test. And then the 4th defender at Nobles, Ainsley Gray, didn't want to leave her out. They're 4 captains, but just they don't give up any grade A's. Everything's to the outside. Sophia Levering just does everything well. Olivia Maffeo will probably get the offensive headlines because she'll lead the rush plenty, but Sophia Levering's just a smooth skater, defends really well. But I was really excited to actually see St. Paul's in that litmus test against Nobles. It's tough because I think St. Paul's is better than they showed on Sunday against Nobles, but I think whether you talk about Nobles' defense giving absolutely nothing, whether it's at their own blue line or in the middle of the ice, Zubkovska's fantastic in net. And then Nobles' forecheck is just relentless.
I was going to say, I saw you write about this.
I've seen Nobles. I saw them twice this weekend. I've seen them once before, and my biggest takeaway is, holy cow, that forecheck. There's just nothing for opposing breakouts, just absolutely nothing. And it was honestly a little bit of a fire drill sometimes for St. Paul's, and it was the same thing for Loomis Chaffee when I saw them. It was the same thing for St. Mark's when I saw them play Nobles on Saturday. They come at you in waves, and it's just relentless.
How are they offensively?
I think they're really opportunistic, especially because the forecheck creates so much chaos where they're just going to get chances because of it.
So the Panthers last year.
Yeah, and what, Maffeo and Levering, particularly from the point, are really good at getting shots through, and they're low, and there's usually rebounds. And so whether it was against Loomis Chaffee a couple weeks ago, a lot of their goals were off rebounds or in dirty areas. And it was kind of the same thing this weekend, whether it was St. Mark's, they kind of just overwhelmed, and they got there.
Yeah,
everyone got theirs against them. But against St. Paul's, it was a rebound goal to open the scoring, another goal from right around the crease, and then I think Callie Brown's third goal, which put the game away before the empty netter. I think Callie Brown's goal was off a turnover. Rachel Zhao makes a nice cut, and then it's basically a 2-on-1 and tight below the dots, and a great pass and buries it. So again, it's just. The best way to say it is it's a fire drill for opposing breakouts.
Yeah, no, and I think that's how they're going to beat the really good teams. And St. Paul's is a really good team.
Yeah.
They're up there.
Yeah.
In the top 10. Williston. What did you think of them? I know maybe you're bad luck. That's what it is. You showed up and they started to lose. Obviously they're really good. They are. They've been the best team in prep for a couple of years now. What did you notice out of them? Were there anything, pros, cons, things you liked, things you didn't like?
Yeah, so, against their loss to St. Paul's, it was a phenomenal game, first of all. It was a track meet. It was back and forth the entire time. St. Paul's up 1-0 early. Williston ties it. I don't think they took the lead. I think if St. Paul's took the lead late and then an empty netter. But, that top line for Williston, I thought Monique Lyons had a kind of quiet-ish tournament. They beat Milton 7-0 on Saturday, and everyone got on the score sheet. But
point night.
Yeah. I thought she was really effective without getting on the score sheet. And then Nora Curtis down the middle, so their power play setup is a lot of you have Monique Lyons on her off wing. Nora Curtis is in the Patrice Bergeron bumper, and everything kind of feeds to Nora Curtis, and nobody can stop the one timer from there. She had a hat trick. She had a hat trick against Milton. I'm almost positive all 3 goals were off that slot.
Really? Yeah. They just couldn't stop it.
Yeah. So I mean that the whole thing there is just clicking there. And also on the top line is Mia Daly. She's a freshman from Linfield. She had a couple goals against Milton, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But she complements Curtis and Lyons really well. I think she's going to be a player we're going to talk a lot about over the coming years. Someone who I was expecting to see on that top line was Violet Carroll, but she was playing D a lot in this tournament. So maybe I missed that at the start of the year, but I obviously haven't gotten to Williston much being out in Western Mass. But I thought she was really good on defense, especially they didn't have Caroline Alfiero on Sunday. Violet Carroll she's like dynamic skater, evades pressure herself, will skate the puck up, and obviously, having played forward, has that confidence.
And what grade is she?
I believe she's a senior. I can double check that.
That's interesting.
Because last year their top line was Carroll, Curtis, and Lyons. And this year, obviously, not, or at least this weekend, they had Violet Carroll on D.
She's a two-way weapon.
Yeah. But, kind of the player is always calling for it at the point. Always shooting it, but it's okay because her shot is pretty heavy and she gets it off quick. I always like, especially at this level for kind of boys too, like who can like shoot the puck. I don't want to say like correctly, but who's really flexing their stick and loading into it and releasing it as they should. And she's one of those players that whether it's slap shot or wrister from the point, it's heavy, it's quick. It's usually getting through. So
well, that's the biggest thing is it quick. I mean, that's kind of how hockey's sort of changed, and it's interesting you mentioned that. Aside from those two teams, because I know that those were kind of the marquee of the teams there. There were a lot of really good. I mean, BB&N, St. Paul's, plenty of good teams. Did you notice any other players that caught your eye? I know there was one on St. Paul's that you really liked. I'll let you give her name. I don't want to give it away. Well, it's Cammie Bell. Fine, I said it. And it was
hard to guess.
Was there anybody else aside from her that stood out to you throughout the tournament?
So I thought with Lawrence Academy, I hope I'm not butchering this, Nuala Gibbs. She's from Ontario. She's a sophomore. She was on the top line with Kukenham. And so Kukenham's actually a junior, not a senior. But so Gibbs, just blazing speed, smooth skater, and their connection on the top line I thought was kind of the best thing Lawrence had going for them this weekend. And then on St. Paul's, Cammie Bell. So when I talked to Kelly Mackey going into the year, every coach is going to hype their best player and
of course.
Stuff. And she's won I think it's the Loomis Medal at St. Paul's for like best female athlete. She's won that 2 years in a row. And you're like, okay, like I'll keep my eye out.
Thanks.
But St. Paul's is one of those schools, God bless them, that it puts recaps. So if you're not at the game, like I can see who's scoring and
exactly.
They have active social media.
I was gonna say schools that do that should continue doing that, and schools that don't should start doing it.
Yes, or just send us your stats.
Yes, that would be really
Once
helpful.
Again, here shamelessly asking for stats,
please.
But Cammie Bell's like over a goal per game to start the year, and you're like, oh wow, okay. And I see her this weekend, and total package, explosive, can really shoot the puck well. There were a couple times, especially against Williston, where I thought she had some one-on-ones off the rush where she could have probably driven to the net more. But even a shot from the perimeter, the way she releases it is still dangerous. There's going to be a rebound, or maybe she might even just roof it. But the games I saw her like fairly quiet production-wise. It was kind of like Monique Lyons, where like clearly being effective, it's just not translating to the score sheet. Especially against Nobles, like they just accounted for her so well and kept her to the outside the entire time. But Cammie Bell's the real deal. Really just drives the play. Anytime she's on the ice, shorthanded, power play, 5-on-5, just drives the bus for them.
I feel like having a player like that just changes your whole outlook as a team, and it does for St. Paul's. I know there's other good players on St. Paul's. Like the goaltender had a good night.
Yeah, Allie Martinello.
Yeah,
really good. She saw a ton of pucks.
I was gonna say against Noble, she must have seen a lot.
And against Williston too, like in that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was fantastic. Even against BB&N. So I was really impressed because St. Paul's beat BB&N 3-1 on Saturday night. That was the last game of the night. I'm glad I stayed for it because it was 3-1. It might not seem that exciting, but it was like BB&N had It was there was a lot of special teams at the end. It was like power play for St. Paul's and BB&N power play. Cami Bell actually took it. I think it was a checking penalty.
Oh,
yeah, it was physical hockey this weekend.
That's the
really
best.
Physical.
That's the best.
Yeah. It ends up being like 4-on-4. BB&N pulls the goalie, so now it's back to 5-on-4. And St. Paul's was playing a lot of defense down the stretch, and it was a really gritty win for them against BB&N. Even though
packed it in.
Yeah. And Martinello just. I wrote about this in my takeaways from the championship, but so my vantage point for most of the championship game was kind of directly behind her net, a little off to the side.
You were peering over her. You're like, I'm gonna write about you.
Yeah. And there were just some saves I just couldn't believe she tracked the puck through, because Nobles, what a lot of Nobles is doing is working the puck back to the point, getting shots low, and getting just bodies in front. Mm-hmm. Everybody tries to do that.
Yes.
But Nobles has been particularly effective at that. And just saving everything, seeing everything, tracking everything really well, and especially whether I guess Noble's got that.
This is how I feel, by the way, watching Milton goalie Sam Caulfield. Just how are you seeing the puck? How are you tracking that? But
especially like Nobles is like very content to play for those second and third chance opportunities, and she's making those saves. So I was really impressed with her.
Yeah, I think she's an emerging star if she's not already one. But an interesting tournament for the Harrington. I mean, again, you would have picked Williston, I would assume.
So last pod I said Nobles has a pretty nice setup to go deep in their own tournament.
That's right.
At their bracket.
That's right. That's right. But I think a lot of people would have had Williston, so I'm glad that it's good to see the get spread around a bit. And I think St. Paul's going on this run of beating mainly Williston and then holding their own against Nobles. I think says a lot for them. Probably going to help them in the rankings when you do that this week.
Hey, it's Bobby Moran, Director of Athletics at Thayer Academy. You know what? Experience matters, and Thayer Academy's professional coaching staff understands how to work with each student athlete to help them succeed. Our coaches and faculty are committed to ensuring both 5th to 12th graders feel known, connected, and prepared. This is Thayer's secret sauce, nurturing each student to reach their full potential. Here, success is truly a team sport. Are you ready for your child to take the next step? See what Thayer has to offer at thayer.org. That's THAYER.org.
Do you want to skate fast? For 50 years, Laura Stam instructors have taught youth players to pros how to skate correctly, powerfully, and fast. Players who attend Laura Stam power skating programs learn how to skate fast by learning how to execute every maneuver in hockey. They become powerful, stable, efficient, and explosively fast skaters. If you can't wait for a clinic, join our subscription skills video service, and we'll show you the skills taught at our clinics in an easy-to-use video format with training plans to guide your training. Register or subscribe now at laurastam.com. That's LauraStamm.com. You can learn to skate fast.
Prepare for the next level at Cushing Academy. Coach Pearl here, varsity boys hockey coach at Cushing Academy. If you're looking for the complete boarding school experience that combines elite level boys and girls hockey and a huge range of classes, look no further than Cushing. With a program that has produced more than 70 professional and Olympic athletes, there's never been a better time to prepare for the next level with the Penguins. Visit Cushing.org to register for a tour of the Cushing campus today. Roll Pens.
Hi, my name is Chris Santello. I'm the owner and president of Impact Hockey Consulting. After seeing and hearing how poorly hockey players and their parents were being advised with false hope and direction over the years, I decided to start Impact Hockey Consulting with a vision to help hockey players and families through their hockey journey. We do it the right way with an honest assessment and feedback of where they are in their hockey career. At Impact Hockey Consulting, we believe every player should be treated with the utmost respect and honesty to support their needs throughout their path. At IHC, we specialize in advising, mentoring, player development, video analysis, and the proper placement for each player. I welcome all RinkWise listeners to reach out. I'm eager to hear from you and learn more about where you are and want to be in hockey. Please visit our website, impacthockeyconsulting.com, to set up a call today.
in terms of other tournaments, I'm just looking through our page right now. We had, by the way, I was happy. People at the tournament would come up to me and say, "Oh, thank you for the schedule post. Like I've been tracking it all weekend." I'm like, "Oh, glad to see that people are reading this."
Nice.
I like that. Millbrook wins the Watkins. I feel like that's pretty big.
Over Groton too.
Yeah. So good for them. And then we had Loomis Chafee win the Patsy Auden over Andover. That's pretty big.
That's probably the biggest one out there.
I was gonna say that was a big upset.
Yeah, especially Tabor losing to Tabor lost to Andover, so that's two heavy hitters there. You kind of expect one of
6-3 game too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was impressed with Kent, even though they kind of fell off a little bit against Andover and Tabor. Those were two tight games and went to a shootout. But Loomis Chafee outlasting Andover in a 1-0 game with all of Andover's firepower.
Yeah.
That's pretty big for them.
That's incredible.
The other one that caught my eye was Hill beating Thayer at the Dexter tournament.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Especially with the start Morgan McGathey's had, and Thayer had a really good start themselves, like as a team. Hill taking them down is also pretty impressive. Yeah,
so on the girls' side, there were a lot of upsets and championships, and on the boys' side, it was the exact same thing. We'll transition to boys now. Do you have any other leftover girls' thoughts you want to hit on?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all pretty well.
And we'll have more this week.
Yes,
a lot of in writing. On the boys' side, there were upsets everywhere. I think the Big Four tournaments, I consider them the Big Four. The Avon Christmas Classic, Kevin Much, Flood-Marr, and Groton Lawrence. The favorite did not win in any of them. Actually, Flood-Marr, Kimball Union was probably the favorite. So I'll give them Flood-Marr, sure, was the favorite. But the other three, Kent outlasted Avon in double overtime, which I almost drove down for that game, and I was kicking myself that I didn't because it was a good game, and I wish I had seen it. Credit to Kent for outlasting Avon in that. It's funny, we did a lot on Frederick Gunn in the last podcast. Frederick Gunn did not have a great tournament. There were a couple good teams or borderline, Frederick Gunn was top 10 for us. Lost to Loomis Chafee, tied Trinity Pauling, lost to Kent. And then it beat St. Paul's in the last place game. But they kind of didn't have a great tournament. But again, it's not the end of the world. They fall out of the top 10, but they're still a good team. But like Berkshire had a very good tournament. Berkshire's actually had a very good start to the year. They're 6-3. They took care of business. They beat Loomis Chafee, who's also a good team. But credit to Kent for pulling out that win. I mean, Kent is a good team. Kent is deep. Kent has, Gio DeJulian and Patrick Walsh had the overtime winner. They have a deep team that could make a real Elite Eight run. They do move up in my rankings this week. Is that the wind?
Yeah, it's a windy day here, Evan. Either that or we're under attack. Your enemies have finally caught up with you.
It's taken them long enough. That's the wind. I don't know if people could hear that on the mic.
Or the renovations downstairs just getting a little out of hand.
There's a Starbucks underneath that's been being renovated for like months. I wish the Starbucks would come back. But Kent is very good. Kent is a legitimate Elite Eight contender. And I think even if they lost to Avon Old Farms, I would say that because they kind of have it all. They're deep up front. They're deep in back. Again, DeJulian, I think, is a candidate for kind of prep hockey player of the year. I just think he's so good all around. One of those powerful players. He's a Cornell commit, so I'll give him props there. Kevin Much, Brunswick. What a run. Yeah. I mean, to beat Rivers, and they beat him handily, to then beat St. Andrews College, which was a great game I was not at. I heard it was really good. I was there for the game before when Sebs took down Northwood, but to then also outlast Sebs.
In a home game for Sebs.
In a home game for Sebs, who widely talked about how good Sebs' home crowd is, and it is. Kids are always there. It's always a good environment. For Brunswick to go in and rattle those 3 wins off, big. And this will come out after the rankings come out. Brunswick goes up to number 2 in my rankings.
Wow.
Which is higher than I thought for them. I thought they would be somewhere around 5 or 6. They're now at number 2 because that top line's legit. Sean Gibbons, Luke Drury, Brendan Giles, Cooper Cleaves on defense. Will Baker's legit in net. I think there were some question marks around, what would happen in net with them. He was outstanding in this game. Basically, Brunswick came out on all cylinders, went up 3-0. Sebs scored 1 in the end of the first, and because it was 2 halves, and then in the second half they added another. Teddy Mutrin also had a penalty shot in this game, and Baker made the save.
Wow.
So, and they kind of withstood the final push. I think Jake Hamilton did a story for us on it, and I heard from others at the rink, like, Sebs, it was all Sebs in the second half, and they weathered it. So, to me, like, Brunswick might, of all the 4, like, of the big 4 championship wins, Brunswick might have been the most impressive given the gauntlet of teams they had to go through.
Yes.
Rivers, St. Andrews College, who has tons of talent. All the NHL scouts were watching St. Andrews College. They have the Dean Latorno, who's 6'7", I think. And
Is he really?
He's 6'7". He's a potential like second or first round pick this year. Decommitted from Northeastern recently, is going to BC. And then to take down Sebs. And it's funny, I felt bad. I moved Sebs down to number 6, which feels low because to me they have a top 3 offense.
Yeah.
And they were our cover and they're so good. The thing is though, the reason they moved to 6 is because any team from 1 through 7, so like, from Kimball Union, who I have number 1, down to Kent, has a case for top 3.
Yep.
So like you can't have I can't have 1A, 1B, 2A, 2. I can't do that. So Sebs moves down to 6. I'll also say Sebs has 2 losses. And the teams above them have, like, Brunswick has 2 losses or 2 ties and a loss, but they're the good teams. Sebs lost to Exeter and now lost to Brunswick. And Sebs, I don't think, has like a true quality win yet. I know people debate me on this, but Rivers obviously is a good win, but the teams above them have more. So Sebs moves to 6. So credit to Brunswick though; they have a really good team. Mike Kennedy, credit to him. Really tough schedule to begin the year, and they lost to Loomis in the first game. They started out kind of, iffy, but I mean, I think that schedule has really helped them, and I would not be shocked if Brunswick continues to just go on this run, because a win at these tournaments can change a whole season. Not that they needed a change in the season, but they looked real good in the bits I saw them this weekend. So credit to Brunswick. And also a big shout out. Holderness wins the Groton Lawrence tournament. Holderness takes them down. Again, I was so disappointed to miss this Holderness Cushing game. I think it was on Friday.
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, a person who watches a lot of hockey said to me, it was the best prep hockey game I've seen this year. And I was like, damn it.
Wow.
Like, my job is mainly watching prep hockey, and I didn't get to see that. That's unfortunate. But Holderness outshot them. And Holderness smothered them for most of the game. And credit to Marco Bilic, who's a Arizona State commit, goalie for Cushing. Really good goalie, NHL draft prospect. He had an awesome game. And to me, like, the upside to a game like that, obviously Cushing's offense was completely stymied. But Bilic is on such a good team that he doesn't get a ton of shots. Like, you're getting perimeter shots. You beat a team 5-0, you get like 18 shots or whatever. But to show that, hey, against a good team like Holderness, he could kind of stand up to it is an encouraging sign. But Holderness is legitimate. I kind of had them in the Brunswick tier of like they're going to be lower top 10. They'll compete. But to me, like they, Pavitt Mera, a post-grad from Hopkinton. I remember watching him tear it up at the Garden last year for the States, and he's 20 points in 8 games so far. That's not bad. That's like, that's like video game numbers. Aaron Van Wee has been an awesome addition. Senior 06, Jake Belanger, Jacob Duval, Caden Wells. And then Caden Harrington on the back end. We had a story about him go last week. From what I gather from different, talking to scouts, talking to people watching, he's moved into potentially being the top NHL draft prospect in prep, which is huge. I mean, he has the size, he has the ability as a defenseman. I know, he does a lot of things right. He has 16 points in 8 games, so he's averaging 2 points per game right now.
Yeah, must be doing something right.
Yeah, to be a defenseman and to be doing that, he just kind of does everything for them on the back end. And I know a lot of NHL scouts are like, I want to see people play juniors, and I think that's something that a lot of kids run into when they're in prep as an NHL draft prospect. But a lot of guys say you got to average at least, 1.5, 2 points a game in prep to be drafted. And he's doing that right now. So, again, he's a guy that continues to progress, a Vermont commit. And Vermont, I don't think there's any worry of losing him because he grew up in Vermont, has always wanted to be a Catamount. Yeah. So Vermont, it's a freaking good
slam
recruit.
Dunk.
That's a slam dunk recruit. So he's continued to impress. Holderness continues to impress. I believe they're number 5 this week. And the only reason I didn't have them higher is because I gave the edge to Brunswick because they beat more good teams. I know. But at the top, it's tight at the top. You got to kind of be a bit cutthroat with that, which being number 5, I don't know, Pat, I don't think that's cutthroat.
No, it's top 5 is good anywhere.
Yeah, and I even Seb's at 6. They'll probably be mad. They'll probably, hopefully they put it on like the wall. They're like, oh, they think we're gonna be number 6. It's just it's tight. It's so razor thin, and that you know
what? Sorry to cut you off, but
no.
Just a takeaway I've had from not only the girls' side this weekend, but the boys' side is just the parity this season.
Yes. Oh, I was just about to say this. Yes.
Even outside of this. The tournaments, especially on the girls' side, like New Hampton, I don't think they weren't on my radar, and maybe that's just me being ignorant. But New Hampton's really come out of I don't want to say the woodwork, but they've had a really good start to their year.
Yeah.
And I don't think they fared too well in their tournament this weekend. But
you're talking about the girls, right?
Yes. But you look at whether it was the Harrington tournament and just the parity there, St. Paul's beating Wilson, and now on the boys' side, all these man, the parity on both sides
is crazy.
Yeah,
and that's been the fun part because last year it was very much Cushing and Avon at the top, and then everybody else. Mm-hmm. This year it's been on the boys' side different. I mean, I've had 3 number 1s. I even wrote this week Kimball Union's my number 1 team. We'll get to them in a second, but they're number 1 for now. It's changing so much.
And you have Sebs at 6, and it's we're not in no world are we saying Sebs can't win it all at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Because they absolutely could. Any team in that top 10 right now, you could probably make a case for.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. And I think, I think Sebs has, defensively and in net, I think they need to prove it a little bit. Can they hang with Cushing, Avon, with how they are defensively? And I think they're fine, but it's their offense is arguably the top offense in the nation, in the region. On paper. Yes, it is. But again, I think that anybody in the top 7 could easily be 1, 2, or 3. Interesting stuff there with the parity, which is not, and also on the boys' side, Loomis Chafee, really good start to the year. Phillips Andover, 7-2-1. I wanted to rank them, but they didn't have the greatest Flood-Marr, so I didn't. Berkshire, 6-3 to start the year. These teams that I didn't expect. Exeter has beat Sebs. They beat someone else that's really good. I don't have the schedule in front of me. There's parity, which is nice, and some would say, well, that's because the talent isn't as good. I don't think that's the case. I think that there are more better players on just different teams.
Yes.
The Eberhard is better. The Keller is better. I mean,
the talent pool is just deeper.
The only division or region, the Lakes region, is a little thin. It's Kimball Union, Holderness, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's why Holderness stats are the way they are. But to me, the reason I move Holderness up is because they beat Cushing, right? That's their first big test of the year, and they passed it. So I'm very curious, how does Holderness fare against KUA when they play, I think, twice in February. So that's that. Now I'll get to the Flood-Marr, which is where I was at for most of the tournament, or most of the weekend, so I can hit on this a bit more. KUA, it's not a surprise. I mean, it wasn't a surprise that Salisbury and KUA were in the final. KUA is deep. Salisbury is Salisbury. What I will say is Salisbury did not look as good to me as I would have expected, which is why they moved down to number 8. Salisbury is notorious for starting slow. Andrew Will is an outstanding coach. You can make an argument that he's the best coach in prep. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of candidates for it, but he consistently ranks near the top, if not at the top. But Salisbury, to me, Salisbury was down 5-0 to Deerfield after the first period. I've never seen that in a hockey game before. I've never seen that. Now they came back. They almost won it. It was 6-4. So, they did almost come back, and they were down 3-0 to Nobles, but they did come back in the third period with 3, and then they won it in overtime. So I got to give credit there, but they start slow. They started slow against KUA. They were down 2-0. There's a player up front for Salisbury who caught everybody's attention this weekend, and that's Connor Davis. junior forward out of Quebec City in late 06, so he has everybody excited. Plays the game incredibly hard. Doesn't have the highest skill set, but just such a high compete, fast, great straight ahead speed, always wants it, and just created opportunities for himself and had a really productive weekend. So to me, he was the guy up front that I continued to be like, I can't not notice him. He's just so noticeable. So yeah. He was one. Another is Anthony Biakabatuka. Now, I did a whole feature on him last year because he came down from Canada, and he has a very extensive football family. He was dynamite. I am shocked, Pat, that he is not yet picked up by a college. I am shocked because he is that good on the back end. He's great in his own zone. He had a 2-goal game this weekend. I think he had some big goals. He had a big one, I think, against Nobles. I don't have the stats in front of me, but just really good two-way defender. I know colleges have been looking at him. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked if he doesn't have something in the next month or two. And if he doesn't, I would assume it's up to him. But I just, to me, I think he's too good. I think he's such a good value find. He values education. I would be shocked if he doesn't have something. And then another good development for Salisbury, Stephen Luciano stepped in. Cooper Fleming did not have the best weekend in net. Stephen Luciano Jr. Out of Connecticut came in, played really well. So he, for Salisbury again, they fall to 8. They need to clean some things up, but those are 3 encouraging areas that I think if those things work and the guys work around them, they could work their way back up into that top 5. Because I didn't think they'd fall out of the top 5. Mm-hmm. So that was my my big takeaway from the Flood-Marr, was that I just wasn't uberly impressed with Salisbury and their details and things like that. One team I liked, I know you like this player a lot, Tom Molson from Deerfield. Yep. Had a big weekend and made like the all-tournament team. Another kid, I know the big thing against him is he's small, right? He's smaller. You know, people want to see him go up against junior competition. You know, can he withstand the physicality, all that stuff? I just think his vision and his playmaking and just his overall offensive game is so strong. I'm surprised nobody's taken a chance on him yet. Yeah,
I think he's pretty shifty and just honestly, slippery. I think is good.
Yes,
like because again, like you mentioned the size. There are some times you think he's just going to get killed. Yeah, and he makes a play. So I was impressed with him when I saw him in the fall. Yeah,
he's a guy that again, in Deerfield moves into 10. I have Deerfield at number 10 this week.
Okay.
And maybe, that's going to be debatable. And I have St. George's at 9. St. George's at 9. I'll explain it here. Obviously, they didn't play anybody that great. They crushed everybody this weekend. But everybody kind of beat up everybody. So everyone's stock took a little bit of a hit.
Yeah.
That was in that. Like, Dexter had a really tough weekend. Dexter lost to some teams. I was very shocked that they lost. Because I thought they were like hovering potentially into my top 10. Now they're not. Westminster was another. But these teams all beat the heck out of each other. St. George's was in my top 10 to begin the year. I couldn't decide on a team for number 9. And I said, you know what? St. George's has a good enough roster. They've been taking care of business. I'll throw them in there. Because they're good. But Deerfield, Molson, Justin Tavares, they have a good team. Hotchkiss, I think, came in winless with like total of 3 goals on the season. They were in the 3rd place game. That was 0-0 tie with Nobles. Nobody took 3rd place.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, they had a pretty good weekend. Like, that's a team that I thought was going to get kind of steamrolled, and they didn't. Are you ready to elevate your game in education? The New Hampshire Mountain Kings program is a new and unique hockey experience located in central New Hampshire. The ownership group operates the newly renovated Tri-Town Ice Arena in Hooksett, New Hampshire. The arena is the home of the North American Hockey League New Hampshire Mountain Kings as they compete in their inaugural season. The New Hampshire Mountain Kings Academy and Mountain Cat Academy were created with a desire to enhance the typical hockey academy experience for both male and female participants. In 2024, the Mountain King Academy will have teams competing at the U14, U15, U16, and 18 levels, while the Mountain Cats will compete at the U19 level. The students will attend school in person at Bishop Brady High School and stay in secure dormitories with meal plans at NHTI and Concord, New Hampshire. For information on how to become a Mountain King, contact them today at info@nhmountainkings.com. Again, that's info@nhmountainkings.com.
Do you
want to become a better hockey player this summer with Paul Vincent Hockey? Since 1972, Paul Vincent, currently the head skills instructor of the Florida Panthers, has been developing NHL and college hockey players. Paul Vincent stands by his saying, there's always room for player development. Players such as Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Keith Yandel, Matt Grzelcyk, Patrick Sharp, Adam Oates, and many more have trained with Coach Vincent and his staff and have outstanding results. Join Paul Vincent this summer at one of his 4 Massachusetts locations, Canton, Saugus, Middleton, and Falmouth on Cape Cod. To reserve your spot today, go to pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. That's pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. Paul Vincent is ready to get back to work this summer. Are you?
For over 20 years, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey has been helping hockey players of all ages develop their individual skills and improve on all aspects of their game. Through structured drills and innovative training equipment, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey's intense on-ice instruction challenges each student to be the best at their ability. Find a hockey clinic or summer camp that is right for you today at nateshockey.com. That's N-A-T-E-S hockey.com. Eric Nate's Euro Hockey, train to be the best.
Prepare for the next level at Cushing Academy. Coach Pearl here, varsity boys hockey coach at Cushing Academy. If you're looking for the complete boarding school experience that combines elite level boys and girls hockey and a huge range of classes, look no further than Cushing. With a program that has produced more than 70 professional and Olympic athletes, there's never been a better time to prepare for the next level with the Penguins. Visit Cushing.org to register for a tour of the Cushing campus today. Roll pens.
Couple leftover thoughts. Like Milton was a little inconsistent. They're young. Like Sam Caulfield, the net is awesome. It's just a young team. You know, like Will Kanata kind of leads the charge up front. Joe Feinberg was out of BC High. I thought he was really good this weekend. And then Nobles is very good up front. You know, they were fine. You know, they kind of blew that lead against Salisbury, which is tough because it was in their own building too. Mm-hmm. Like they had the crowd on their side and everything. You know, but they beat Phillips Andover. They tied Deerfield. They tied Hotchkiss. Like, they fall out of my top 10. I would say they're number 11. Like, they're a good team. They just didn't finish. And I think that, you know, that was kind of the thing I held against them. So, yeah, it was a lot of hockey. Do you have any thoughts from the boys' side? Like, was there anything that stood out to you I know you mentioned the parity.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything that, you know, wouldn't really be echoing what you've talked about. I think with Salisbury, you know, you talk about the slow start, and you talk about, like, you know, Cooper Fleming leaving a little bit to be desired this weekend. But you know what? Say Steven Luciano keeps it up in the second half, and Cooper Fleming also keeps it up. Then
goalie tandem.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. And that's the thing about Salisbury is that, like, they have the coaching, they have the roster, they can move back in, and they will. Yeah. Like, they're always there. And I do think that them not being in the Elite Eight last year was a motivator. So, like,
especially like Cooper Fleming's one of those goalies that everyone had really high hopes for going into the year. Mm-hmm. So, you know he's better than what you've seen
exactly.
So far.
And I think that's the thing. And I think they will figure it out. They always do. So I would assume that down the stretch, in the second half of the year, they pull through. We'll leave it at this before we go to overtime. A quick thing. We didn't really make set predictions, I don't think. Unless we did and I'm forgetting them, but I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
And I don't want to make predictions for the rest of the year because it is always changing. But has your outlook on the girls' hockey landscape changed at all, teams-wise?
I don't think so. You know, I think the top 4 is kind of still the same. You know, Nobles is going to go to 1 this week for me. Mm-hmm. And you know, Williston. You know, honestly, I don't want to like take joy in them losing. But, you know, it makes the rankings a little more fun now.
Exactly. I like this. I agree with you.
Because then you're not just, Wilson won again this week, and then Andover tied. Do they drop to 3, or do they say it
exactly?
2? No, I think it makes the rankings a little more exciting. But, yeah, like, I think the top 4 is still very much, you know, kind of cut and dry. Now, the onus falls on St. Paul's, who's going to jump back into the top 5. Can they crack that top 4? Because right now it's Nobles, Williston, Andover, Tabor. And those are, you know, pretty damn good teams.
Yeah.
So St. Paul's, their best win so far this season is over Williston, and so schedule's going to toughen up down the stretch.
Yep.
Prove it. That's kind of where they're at, and then you know outside of the top 5, Kent will probably be 6, but I think you look at 7 through, the next 7 to 12, it could really go anywhere. Because I had BB&N, I think they were 8 last week, and they had a really tough weekend. And then Loomis Chaffee had kind of a tough start to the season, but they've ripped off, I think, 4 wins in a row, and the Andover one is huge. And so now they're right there knocking on the door again. So I think it's kind of interesting, just the way that that second tier of teams can really shake out in the second half.
It goes to parity. I agree with you. I want to mention one other tournament on the boys' side. Canterbury won the the Barber Memorial that's at St. Mark's in Middlesex. I thought St. Mark's would run away with this. Middlesex beat St. Mark's in the one of the middle games. Mm-hmm. They beat him 3-1. St. Mark's, by the way, has fallen out of my top 10, but they're not forgotten. They're still a good team. I think they're 7-2-1, or they're 7-2. Still good. I want to see them I want to see them against St. George's and Rivers. I want to see them before I kind of move them back into the top 10. But shout out to Canterbury. Canterbury, again, that's a pretty good statement win. I mean, it's not, that's a good win for them. They're 5-2-1 to start. Sam Siapa, no surprise there. Jake Stevens. But Ryan Stratton, an 05 senior, has 15 points in 8 games. So, again, not bad. Yep. So good for them to get, that's a really good thing. I mean, again, it goes back to a lot of teams that we kind of didn't consider are now playing pretty well. And like teams like Westminster and Milton that were in the Elite 8 last year are kind of hovering around 500. But they're going to start to get better. So, again, it goes back to there's more parity. And for the boys' side, my only thing that's changed is going into this weekend, I thought the top 3 were set. Some form of Cushing, Avon, St. Seb's. Now I'm realizing that Brunswick is really good. Holderness is really good. Kimball Union is now number 1. So it's open. And Kent. So, to me, those 7 teams are my favorites right now to be in that grouping. But I think Salisbury could easily move back in. And then it comes down to 9 and 10. Who is competing for those 2 spots? So, again, if you had to make me take a guess, my guess would be the Elite 8 right now would be any form of Cushing, Avon, Kimball Union, St. Seb's, Holderness, Brunswick, probably Salisbury, and did I mention Kent? Kent would be the other.
Yes.
If I didn't mention Kent. Well, I forgot someone. But those top 7 teams, we're not great with numbers, Yaz. I'm not great with math. We went to school for journalism.
I was told there would be no math.
No math.
Hey,
but you know what there would be? You know what I was told there would be? Overtime. So take it away, Yaz.
Overtime.
Yes, once again, time for overtime, where I throw 3 questions the way of our panelists today. They're completely unprepared for these questions. It's my goal to make them look goofy and stupid. I wake up in the morning with that goal. No, just kidding. Here we go.
Doesn't take much for me to look goofy.
I achieved that by opening my eyes in the morning.
I was going to say, I was ahead of you on that.
By waking up.
Evan, we'll let you go first on this one. Pretty simple. All else being equal, are you a pro analytics guy when it comes to hockey, or not so much?
Very pro. Very pro. I think to me, the resistance to analytics doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree. You've got to be, you got to see the players. You got to see that, it's got to match. You got to watch the player and you got to look at the analytics. But to me, I'm very, very, very pro analytic.
Is there a particular stat that is either underrated or most helpful to you, or?
We always joke about it, but it's Corsi. Corsi is very helpful, and that's basically chances for versus chances against when you're on the ice. So I like that a lot because it kind of tells a picture of where you're playing in the zone, on the ice, and what's happening when you're on the ice.
Pat, your thoughts?
I'd agree with Evan. I'm very pro. I subscribe to it needs to be a blend. Like he said, it has to match up to what you're seeing on the ice. Because there were times in the playoffs last year where I remember oh man, Hampus Lindholm was awful, and then you look at the numbers, his Corsi's off the charts. You're like, I don't know, it was probably just a Brandon Carlo game.
Yeah.
Especially with Lindholm playing hurt. My favorite advanced stat, probably high danger save percentage for goalies. I think that is huge indicator for if a goalie is just kind of making saves on softballs, like Ali Martinello this week, and her high danger save percentage is probably off the charts,
through the roof.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that one for goalies.
I like that stat. It's a good stat.
Not all saves are created equal.
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
Question number 2, also pretty simple question. Question is, what is the best rivalry in hockey? Pat, we're going to let you start now. You can pick pro, you can pick college, or you could pick sort of one that's personal to you.
Wow.
Rivalry.
Bruins Canadians just doesn't have that juice anymore. Bruins Leafs haven't met in the playoffs in a couple years. I'm probably gonna go college here.
Okay.
I'm biased, but I'm gonna say BC.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And especially since both teams are good this year, and it's a shame we didn't get because usually it feels like there's one game before the holiday break every year, and they didn't get that this year. But the first game coming back from the break, I believe, is BC.
Yes, it is.
And so that's gonna be nuts.
Are you a big Beanpot guy, Pat?
I'm a huge Beanpot guy.
He went to BU, so he has to.
I went to BU. I would go to it with my friends and my dad all the time in middle school and high school. Huge Beanpot guy.
All right.
I'm the complete opposite.
Okay.
I didn't grow up going to the Beanpot. I didn't
Right.
go to a Beanpot school. It's never meant that much to me, but I appreciate that it means something to you. And it's good. I mean, I do,
So,
BCB, I do enjoy it.
I will say, when I worked at NCAA last year, a lot of people were because they would see me getting so excited for the Beanpot and Slack and stuff.
They're like, what is even hockey?
And I'd be like, someone at the NCAA that I worked with, they were like, we're gonna try and get out and get a social team to the Beanpot next year. Is it worth it? And 1,000% yes. I think the Beanpot final, I will put that up against any game. I think it's the fastest paced hockey game you'll ever see.
And
just the emotion, the adrenaline,
Yes.
the student section, especially if you get a good student section. BU and Northeastern probably have the best student crowds. Northeastern usually takes up 2/3 of the upper deck at the Garden.
Yes.
Northeastern student section is freaking nuts, and they arguably the best band in the city too. So that's always an electric atmosphere if Northeastern's playing.
Yeah, I will also say at NCAA, the best part of that with the Beanpot was how well every Beanpot piece of content did, and they were like, whoa, Beanpot's a bit, and it has national
Yeah.
appeal.
Yep.
Which I didn't realize until I went to NCAA that was the case. My favorite rivalry,
Go, yeah.
I will say Maple Leafs versus the Stanley Cup. Just not being able to do it, not being able to get even remotely close to it in many years, that would be my number one favorite rivalry, because I agree, Bruins Canadians was big when we were little, but last couple of years, Canadians have stunk.
Well, I think it's more of the schedule too. They don't play each other enough.
They don't. My second rivalry, and this means something to me, public high schools versus private high schools. Still one of my favorites.
Okay.
Whenever Hingham beat St. John's Prep this past weekend in boys, and on Twitter, the Hingham student section has a Twitter account, and they were tweeting they pay for school, losers, and all these people with Zavarian in their bio, and St. John's Prep were getting mad at. There's nothing. When I was playing the MIA, there was nothing better. We beat Zavarian twice my senior year as Framingham High School. It was the first time in 20 years we did it. We beat them twice. It was unreal. There's nothing better than public versus private, and seeing a public win, because it is. Again, you're overcoming the odds. You're the underdog. Hingham is always an underdog against a private school. And so seeing a public school beat a private school, always one of my favorite rivalries. 100%.
See, I played basketball and baseball at Milton Academy, and with those sports, you just kind of assume you're going to lose if you play against a public school. That's the way it is. And get made fun of at the same time.
That's true.
All right, we'll move to our final question. And the question is this. The worst call you've ever seen. This could be a famous error made by a ref in a pro game, college game, or maybe just a game that you were attending or even involved in. I forget whose turn it is to go first. Pat, you go.
Okay. I have two.
Okay.
I feel like we're going to have a similar one.
The clear-cut number one, given the stakes and
You're going to take it. I can feel
and
it.
just how everything unfolded, is the Nola Chari.
I knew it.
Clear. Kelly Sutherland is in the corner looking at
Wait,
it.
which, for our listeners who
Bruins
may not
Blues Game 5 in 2019.
Okay.
Nola Chari gets slew-footed by David Perron.
Yep.
Who turns around, hands in the air, trying to say, I didn't do that. I'm going to get a call. I didn't do that.
I think he even moved his head back. He took a penalty.
Kelly Sutherland's in the corner staring at it. And you have a referee in the neutral zone also staring at it. No call. Blues pass to Tyler Bozak. He scores. Bruins lose 2 games later in Game 7.
That's
heartbreaking.
The other one is more just annoying, and it's kind of pertinent just because the crybaby role that the Chiefs have been on. But the N'Keal Harry out of bounds in Patriots Chief 2 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty specific.
Because I think it was 2019, so Tom Brady was still here. It's going to be a touchdown pass to N'Keal Harry. They said he stepped out of bounds as he dove for the pylon, but every single replay angle you can see an inch of green grass there. and it still bugs me. And I only remember it now just because of just the Chiefs crying about officials this week.
Yes.
Yeah. That was about, he cried for about 10 minutes after the game, which was 10 minutes too long. Evan, you want to add anything to this? Bad calls?
Yeah, yep. Achari, that one's number one for me. Like, that's as bad as it gets. Yep. And that changed the whole series. Now, in fairness, the Bruins shouldn't have stopped playing. Like, the Bruins kind of were, like, all moping, and then the Blues immediately scored. I will give, this was, I don't know if you guys remember this, and the stakes were not high, but it was a 19-inning Braves-Pirates game, like, probably in, like, the early 2010s.
Ooh, I have another baseball one to add after.
Yeah, it's like 2011. Do you remember this, Yaz?
No,
it was a 19-inning game.
Yep.
It was the 19th inning, and I think there was a play at the plate. All the Braves needed was a run, but there's a play at the plate, and the catcher for the Pirates clearly tagged the Braves runner out, like well before the plate, and the Braves player goes and steps on home plate, and he just called safe, and the ump thought that the tag missed the player.
Right.
And it's close, but it looks like it did. But to not call that out in a 19-inning game, like, I know you just want to go home, but that always stuck out to me.
Was there a challenge?
No, this was pre-challenge.
Pre-challenge, oh.
So you could the manager went bananas. So that was pretty bad.
So the baseball one I want to add
Go ahead, Pat.
is Detroit Tigers. Armando Galarraga almost had the perfect game.
Yeah.
And it was, like, unfathomably bad call.
Yep.
That the umpire, the first base ump called I don't remember who
It was
the player
Jim Joyce, the umpire.
The
I
umpire. I don't remember the player, but like said he beat it out, and like the throw was clearly there first.
Yeah.
And this was pre-replay,
Given the stakes,
challenge.
it was a perfect game, right?
It was not just like no hitters happen all the time. Like they've kind of lost their luster a little bit. They're still impressive,
right?
But perfect game. Holy crap!
Yeah,
like,
I know.
To get that wrong.
The thing that irked me about that. Well, first of all, now that's an occasion where you'd say it will probably never happen again because of a good part of the challenge rule, because we don't have the replay. We don't have we didn't have replay then. There was nothing you could do.
Yep.
But then Jim Joyce immediately after the game said he blew the call. Like, why not just reverse the ruling after the game? Would anyone have been upset if they did that?
No. Exactly.
Because they still won 3-0. It didn't impact anything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it's like, well, you don't want to set a precedent. Well, you know what? Anytime someone's throwing a perfect game, maybe.
How about that? Just like, I think you're probably still allowed to huddle up all four umpires and be like, what did you see? And, oh, man, you got that wrong. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Especially, like, so blatantly wrong. Not like it was close and you would have replay now. You'd zoom in frame by frame. But, no, that was so clear as, like, you could see that with the naked eye. It was so wrong.
It wasn't even a really close call, I remember.
It was not.
I remember it was like the lead story on Good Morning America. I was like having my breakfast before going to 5th grade or whatever I was in.
Well, it was like you could see the look on, what's his name, Galarraga?
Galarraga.
The look on his face was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, and everyone in the stadium, with 20,000 people know that the call that he was out.
And now Galarraga has to go like the rest of his life with the what if and like not having closure on that.
It almost made him more famous though, because his career after that, I don't even know it. I don't think he did anything after. No, so it almost made it more famous. But yeah, I mean, horrible.
You mentioned the refs huddling. I'll tell you a quick story about my dad was a high school baseball ump, and there was a game where he was working the infield, and there were runners on first and second, and both runners take off. Double steal, right? So my dad instinctively thinks, if you're the catcher, where are you probably going to throw the ball? Where, second or third?
Yeah.
No.
Probably second, just instinctively.
All right, you're both wrong.
Okay.
It was third, right?
Third. But usually they'll throw to third to get the lead runner. It's a shorter throw. So my dad sprints over to third, and he's got his back turned to second base and waiting to make the call. And the throw never comes because the throw went to second. And so, I think probably both coaches are screaming. So my dad's like, oh, crap. So he runs to the home. Only 2 umpires working high school baseball, right? He runs to the home plate umpire and says, I didn't see it, Phil. He's like, you're asking for my help, Saul? He goes, I'm asking for your help. So the home plate umpire says, you're out, right? and of course, they complain and everything. And my dad says to the guy, oh, I'm so sorry. I blew that. And he goes, Saul, it's okay. Just always remember, and pardon me, listeners, this is what he said. Tits to the ball. Always tits to the ball. So
exactly.
A lesson for umpires.
I like that. I'll give one other.
Sure.
It doesn't get talked about enough. That Eli Manning helmet catch, or the David Tyree one.
Yeah.
There were tons of holding calls on that O-line that never got called on that play. I mean, again, I'll give it credit for NFL history. It was a hell of a play. I didn't like the outcome, but there were probably a lot of holes there that could have been called.
It's frustrating because he almost got sacked. That's the thing. He slithered away. And I remember them asking Richard Seymour after the game, you were getting hold on that play, right? And he goes, not just me, but Jarvis too. Jarvis Brown next to him. And so it's true. But that's, that's a tough one.
That's one of those plays that it's like, that's so cool that like you almost have to tip your cap.
Almost
It was
like
the last catch he made, I think.
Kelsey play.
Was it the last catch he ever made?
I think that was the last catch David Tyree ever made. I think he was out of football after that. It's
Talk
weird.
about George Costanza going on a high note. He's like, I'm done with this. We might as well go on a high note too.
Let's do that. Congratulations, guys. Great job in overtime, as usual. And back to you, Evan, interrupting.
I would say Pat had the edge in the calls. I thought his calls were better than mine. His blown calls were better. So I
also got to Achari first. It was
true, but the Galarraga perfect game. I didn't think of that. That was a good one. But anyways, we'll have a lot more coverage this week from tournaments. We have a little break now, so more MIAA will be coming up, which will be nice. There's some prep tournaments throughout. But that's RinkWise. That's Patrick Donnelly. I'm Evan Marinofsky. RinkWise listeners, have a great rest of your week and happy holidays.